Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello all. So, this is the first lecture of the second week. So, now topic of this will be introduction to the harmonized guidelines and standards for accessibility in India. We have discussed in the previous week that there are so many standards, so many guidelines which are available across the globe as well as in the country. So, in our country also we have evolved over the time, and then finally today we have come to this set of guidelines which are kind of accepted and adopted across the country for creating or designing barrier free environment or universally designed environment. So, now let us see that the content of this. Now, of course, it is a huge document. So, now this was published by Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, Government of India, and in 2021 the latest version was released. So, this is a huge document, as I said, and there are many chapters which we will discuss, and in this lecture or in this course I will only be introducing you to some of the salient features of this standard. Okay, and definitely this is available on the internet, you can download it, and this can be used for as I said, any kind of design. Okay, now what's very special about these harmonized guidelines and standards for universal accessibility is that it has shown a significant shift from barrier free environment to universal design, universal accessibility. Now, you have seen that how the approaches have changed, how we have moved from reasonable accommodation to gradually to visitable, to barrier free, to universal. So, this talks about holistically and it has come up as a very, I would say, unified practitioner's guide for multiple aspects of building planning. Okay, and also another very important component or very important chapter of this document is that it has got a audit checklist. We have used this term audit before, that if you want to assess the barrier or assess the difficulties faced by person with vulnerability in within an environment, you have to do a proper assessment. So, this document provides that checklist. Now, that audit part we are not going to discuss in today's lecture, but we will take it up separately because that is a very important component of inclusive planning and universal design. Okay. Now, the chapters. So, there are 8 chapters. So, first chapter is the introduction. Then it talks about the accessibility, diversity and universal design. These things we have covered already, but not only from this particular document, but I have tried to give you a global and national overview on these two. So, mainly we will be focusing upon external elements, the standard, the spatial standards or the design standards for external element, internal element, signage and information system. And also last but not the least, chapter 7, that is the building operation and maintenance, that we will be touching upon, just telling you that what it includes, because that is a very important inclusion in this particular document which makes it so special. It conforms to all the national policies on inclusion, like the national policy on women, national policy on elderly, national policy on children, the much talked about AIC or Accessible India campaign, the Smart City mission, and also the Right for Person with Disability Act, RPWD Act 2016. It aligns itself to the UN Convention of Right for Person with Disability, the New Urban Agenda which talks of sustainability and inclusion, the SDGs, and also the Indian strategy, which talks about inclusion for persons with disability. And there had been a very robust methodology in formulating this, where the perception surveys have been conducted, the stakeholders have been involved, and then after several rounds of iteration, and this harmonized guideline was framed. So, who are the stakeholders? The user group include all person with all kinds of disabilities, elderly, women, children, transgender individuals, and all other vulnerable population. The built-in, so these are the, so when we talk about these stakeholders, people are there both from the demand side and the supply side. So, the user group, that means people who need that, who are asking for, demanding that. And the next one, that is the built environment professionals, architects, city planners, engineers, designers, who are providing that. So, all need to be, so both need to understand each other. Some people who are the professionals need to understand the need of the person with the vulnerabilities, and the person with vulnerabilities need to convey their need to the professional. So, that is why, so all the stakeholders were involved this here, and also people who are actually building, implementing agencies like real estate developers. Now, why they are very important? Because they are finally financing, the development. So, they might think they also need to understand the importance of this. The extra penny they might need to spend for creating an inclusive or universally accessible built environment or public space, that they should understand the benefit of that, then only they will be interested to spend on that. Okay. So, they are also very important, I would say, stakeholder of this. Then of course, the policy makers. Policy makers are important because these are also need to be integrated into the building bylaws, into the because say an architect is constructing a building and going for approval, and so whether he or she has taken into consideration these guidelines, that is also important. So, that is being taken care by the policy makers. So, all these people are the stakeholders. Now, let us go one by one. First of all, the external elements. So, external elements, what do we mean external elements? That means, all the areas which are outside the building, outside the built premises. Now, we would start from master planning or the site planning. Now, let us try to go one by one. So, now master planning, that means when you are talking about the place, multiple buildings are there within a particular site, or when you are talking about a neighborhood. So, then we talk about master plan. Even master plan is applicable at the city level, but let us not talk that immediately. So, whenever we are talking about, at this particular point, we are talking about the multiple buildings in a site. So, what are the things that we need to consider? We need to consider pick up and drop off zones. You may make your building accessible from the side with the help of ramps and all. But if your pick up point or the drop off point from the car is maybe placed at a distance which is far away from the building entry, and you do not have an accessible route to enter the building, then that means the building, even if you provide a ramped access to this main building, your travel chain is broken. You are unable to provide seamless accessibility. Therefore, inclusive planning and universal design within the building level within the site level starts from site planning or master planning. So, within the site plan, you have to have multiple level car parking so that access can be provided at different points. You need to have the pick up and drop off zones I mentioned, use of ramps everywhere to negotiate the level difference within the site, and use of tactile pavers. We will talk more about this in detail, because these are for helping the person with vision impairment. What it says that ensure that low curbs, wide walkways and seamless circulation. Okay. Now, what do I mean by low carbs? I think I'm sure you are aware of this carb, something called a carb stone. So, if there is a footpath and the footpath is held by a carb stone. So, that means there is a level difference between the road and the footpath. So, which is the carb stone. So, you have to manage those, and if it is too high, maybe I mean those who are architects and engineers, you know that what is the standard height of the of a riser when we go for the trade and the riser, what is the standard height of the riser? 150 mm. Why? Because beyond that, I mean 150 or 166.67 to some in certain cases, because beyond that it becomes difficult for a person to climb. So, similarly, if you have a very a large difference between the footpath and the road, that means that becomes not non-negotiable easily, particularly for elderly or particularly for people with some kind of vulnerability. So, that is one. Ensure low carbs. Wide walkways, because you have to take a wheelchair, we have already seen that. Just please try to, you know, while we study these guidelines, try to relate it with the universal design principles we studied. We studied the 7 principles which talked of adequate size and space for approach and use. So, wide walkways and of course, seamless circulations. High contrast material for navigation. Easy to, that means difficult, so there should not be any difficulty in perception, particularly for people with low vision. So, therefore, high contrast material for navigation, so that, I mean, if you can see that these are the entry points, they have a different color, so that this can easily be identified. There is a contrast. So, this is now finally we come to the site entrance. Let us see what are the features here. First of all, you have the ramp. Now, ramp is the most common anybody would provide, but it is just not a ramp. There are so many things while you design a ramp. The slope of the ramp is important. The handrails are important. Whether the entry point, I mean the beginning or end of the ramp is marked by this kind of tactile tiles. That is important. Now, these tactile tiles are generally of 2 categories. We will discuss that, but let us first see that how these tactile tiles are guiding. So, these are the 2 categories of tactile tiles. One is called the, I hope you can see this, these indicators are there, that this kind of elongated strips are there, which suggest the direction of movement, that is a person who is vision impaired can understand, okay, that this is the direction he must follow. Like when someone comes here at this point, he knows that this is the direction he should follow to enter the gate. And these are the warning tiles or the hazardous tiles. Where are these provided? These are provided whenever there is a end. Say there is a end of the ramp. That means there is a one row of hazardous tile showing that this is the edge. Or these hazardous tile, another very common example, though not related to directly this, you would see at the edge of the platform, railway platform, they are the hazardous tiles. Then also another application of this is when you have for the direction change. So, that means when someone is coming, say someone is entering, just follow the path. I mean, one very important consideration for going for universal design is you have to understand that how a person is moving. Try to visualize the path he or she is following. See, so when someone is trying to enter, would first understand, okay, this is these are a layer of the warning tile, that means change is coming. Then he would understand by touching this that there are the handrails and need to climb up the ramp, and would follow these directional tiles and would continue going unless and until, maybe if someone wants to go there, go this side, will go there, or would follow to go to this gate, and when he reaches at this gate, what would he or she find? That there is a braille signage. So, that means you are continuously kind of leading or as if hand holding and just taking him or her to this point. So, that is important. Other features are low height counters for interaction with the security for wheelchair user. Parking. Now, here this is the parking bays are marked with this symbol of accessibility. Now, this has this is generally placed within the parking zone only, but only thing is that this has to be closest to the main entry. Not more than 30-meter distance is recommended, so that between the accessible entry and the parking zone. And what is the speciality of this parking zone? Normally, what do we have the parking zone? 2500 by 5 meter, something like that what we have. So, here what are we having? We are having an additional say 2400 and 1200, another 1200 millimeter of side transfer zone, because it is expected that the car will park, someone will open the door, come out, the wheelchair will be provided to him or her, and then he will be moving in the wheelchair and going out. So, that is the concept of 2400 plus 1200, that is 3600, and the other side is same, that is 5000. And similarly, the reserve base for scooters and tricycles should be there, and they must be sheltered, firm, and also it is important that when someone comes out of this should be go out or coming out of the parking bay should go to an accessible route like this. Otherwise, it is again whatever you design, one thing is very clear, there should not be any break. There should be seamless accessibility, what is called. So, something like this, say it can be shared, like this bay is being shared. So, someone is parking here, coming down, going from here, and then with this ramp getting onto this accessible route like this. Now, I have been using a term that is access routes quite frequently. So, that means these within every site there has to be an accessible route or accessible walkway. Even if it is not possible to now I am coming back to what is visitable and what is this reasonable accommodation. So, even if it is not possible to make the entire site accessible, there must be accessible routes and walkways with the help of which someone from the entry point can go all the way and enter the building without facing any hassle. So, now the width is there. So, what are the features of an access route? Minimum width 1200 millimeter if it is single, if it is 1800 millimeter two-way, and in case of any obstruction or turns it should be 1500 millimeter. Now, all these are dependent upon the wheelchair movement standards, which we have already discussed in our while we talked about the universal design principles, that is size and the space you require for movement. So, now whether 1200 or 1800 or 1500, that the designer has to decide, because depending upon the number of users. Like for architecture, for any public building, we decide, we have standard norms in NBC given for the what should be the width depending upon the total number of users. So, here not only total number of users, but the total number of users who might be coming on a wheelchair. Like if it is an office building where maybe 5% of people are on wheelchair, then it is that means it's unlikely that the two wheelchairs will pass each other. We have discussed this point. So, that is how we have to optimize. There should be continuous TGSI. TGSI is tactile ground surface indicators. Okay. Now, another thing that is coming here is the gradient should not exceed 1:20. Okay. Now, here this is not the slope of the ramp. So, when you have a ramp like this, that slope can be steeper. That slope minimum is 1:12, preferably is 1:15. But when we are talking about access route, then it is 1:20 that is recommended. Why? Because ramp is for a shorter duration. You just push someone up, or you just, even if you are self-propelling wheelchair, you just give that much of effort to negotiate a small distance. But if it is a pathway, that means it is expected that people are going to move for a longer distance. So then 1:20 is the comfortable gradient that is acceptable. Okay, so this is kind of that. And now, okay, here what we have, the level changes. There should not be any level change within the accessible route. So if situation is such that if there are contours and if the design is such that you have to have change, then if the level changes are less than 6 millimeter vertical change, then no edge treatment is required. 6 to 15 millimeter, then you have to give some kind of a what we called molding or some kind of a fillet or that chamfering that we have to do. So these are required, and the level changes are to be marked. Grooves are to be covered for smooth access, otherwise there are chances that these wheels will get caught. Also, we need to be very important for placing the gratings. First of all, gap should be less than 12 millimeter. Oriented perpendicular to the travel direction. Now, why perpendicular to the travel direction? Because otherwise, if they are in the parallel to the travel direction, say these are the two gratings, the wheel is coming, it might get stuck like this. So to avoid that, it should be perpendicular to the travel direction so that it can pass through. And flush with the ground, manhole drains off center. Now these might require very very insignificant in the entire process of design and construction and implementation, but all of these are important. Otherwise, this might lead to severe accidents. Wheelchair might trip. That would be really dangerous. So these are important. Carb ramps, what I was talking about. There are various types. First of all, one is called the flared sides. That means, say this is the ramp part and these are the flares on the two sides. Why are the flares? For safety reason again. Because if someone by chance, if the wheel comes here, then it is a sharp drop, then someone might fall. So that's why flared carb ramps are always preferred. So other things are there like slip resistant surface. There should not be any water accumulation. No hand. And for such cases, no handrails are required because this is just a small level difference that is being negotiated. But yes, the gradient is 1:12 is the maximum. Sometimes with flared 1:10 is allowed, but not preferable. Width has to be 900 or equal to the walkway so that it is possible to take it comfortably. So these are the carb ramps. Then you have the pedestrian crossing. Now, when you have the pedestrian crossing, here you talk about the surface textures and colors and the crossing must match the accessible pedestrian path. This is important because to show the continuity. That means if the pedestrian path is of a particular color and the same color is continued, so perceptible information or simple and intuitive views relate to the universal design principle. So what is the intuition? Here the intuition is ease in intuition is important here, because people know that this is a pedestrian area, so they would easily relate it to that. Not only they, but even the drivers would say, okay, this is the pedestrian zone, this is where people might be crossing, so I need to be careful, I need to slow down. So that's why that is the simple and intuitive use. You have this raised pedestrian crossing, continuous level. Like sometimes what happens, we know that is, I will try to give this in my study material. That is, whenever you have a zebra crossing, what happens? You have the footpaths on the two sides, come down and then cross from the zebra. But something that is called a boom-butt crossing, whereby the footpaths are on the two sides, and there is a level cross, level bridge kind of a thing, or level raised platform kind of a thing, which connects the footpath at the same level. So that's so that what happens? whenever there is a, that's called a wombat crossing. We will discuss this when we talk about the pedestrian safety. We have a separate lecture on the pedestrian crossing and safety, so we can, I think I will be able to clarify it then. Okay. Now, tactile guides are very important. So, by the time I think please make this thing very clear that there are two types, directional as well as warning, and correct usage of this is very important for proper navigation, because they are kind of I mean, they are the people's eyes. People who cannot see, they are exactly following these routes. Okay, here it talks about unobstructed tactile path, 2.1 meter headroom. This is simple architecture, as we know. What is the height of the lintel level of the door? 2.1. Why? So that people with even with load on the head can pass. So it's as simple as that. So there should be a up to 2.1 meter, 1 meter. There should be a proper, clear space from which people can pass through. And there should not be anything protruding within that clear zone, because that is very important. Say someone is walking, just imagine yourself walking with your eyes closed. So then what is happening? I mean, and generally people who have vision impairment, they are carrying a cane. So when they are walking with the cane, they are touching the surface of the ground on the road. But if there is some obstruction on the road, they would face it. But say there is a protruding branch of the tree while walking on the footpath, or maybe someone has there is someone's home by the side of the road and has decided to keep the window open. So that means these are protrusions onto the walkway, which might be extremely dangerous. So this is how you design, and so this is how direction changes are being guided. Like you have these, so when you have the plus shaped or X shaped junction, or you have an L shape, because this is here. So say how do people follow this? People are coming like this, or and then they come here. They decide that they need to change the direction. Then they go there. Then they touch here, finds nothing. Then they touch. Then he touches here, finds nothing. Touches here, finds something. That means understands that this is the direction, not this, neither this. But in this case, maybe they will find, when he comes to this point, he will find that there is something there as well as there is something there. So that means there are possibilities of going on the two sides, along two directions. So this is how people are being guided. External ramps. So now this I think we all mentioned that 1:12, 1200. Landings are important, because whenever there is as we design staircases, at every direction change or after a certain distance, we keep this landing. So that is important. Edge protections are important, just for a safety reason. Handrails and grab bars. Also, I mean, what you can probably try to understand, that every single piece or every single element here is important, like the grip and the shape. When you have this, what should be the diameter of that for a proper grip? What should be the height? How much should be the wall clearance? If it is too close to the wall, you cannot have a proper grip. Outdoor drinking water provision. Well lit, signed access, proper drainage, adequate knee space. External sanitary provisions, that what should be the type of handle, either sensor operated or this kind of a lever handle which can be operated by the fist. You don't need to hold it. So lever type faucet. Street furniture, like align all street furniture to maintain a clear 900 mm access path. Visual contrast for visibility and legibility. Place seating at every 30 meter near level change. Adequate seat height. Gap between the bollards, height of the bollards. Contrasting colors, Now coming to the set of internal elements, let us quickly go through this. First, building entrance. Now, I mean the dimensions are same, that you have to now just you have to kind of visualize in the internal setting, that what should be the weight, what should be the minimum door weight, how you can connect the various zones, waiting areas and reception counters and spaces. So, what you see here, so these anthropometry are same, seat heights are same, but only thing is that you have to provide for the spaces or provide for the adequate dimensions, be it an external environment, be it an internal environment. So, basic these dimensions will be same, which are given in much detail in your this harmonized guideline. Okay, so what you need to understand are the what should be the weight, what should be the slope of the ramp, what should be the height of the of these grab bars and all. Like rest of the things like this I was talking about, avoid protruding or freestanding objects. That means, so the actual corridor width is not that. If you have decided to keep these things, so this is your actual corridor width. So you highlight this or you concentrate on this, and if you can see that since there are protrusions, I mean there are some these hazardous tiles are placed here also against these permanent objects, so that people can understand. Now the vertical circulation, these are same as we have the architectural standards, but what additionally what do we see here? Do we see here that at the beginning and end of every flight we have these hazardous tiles and dual height handrails. So, like this we have to put the tiles, and the edge of each of these are to be marked. Ramps same, beginning and end marked. Maximum slope we know. Options that we know that the elevator what should be the parameters, but when you do not have an elevator, I mean you can think about the other options like providing a stair lift like this. Internal drinking water facilities, what should be the height, flexibility, again universal design principle, provide clear floor space, because so that this should not be blocked. Why? Someone might need to take the wheelchair down here, below here, and then use this for drinking water. Similarly, no blocking the space below below the wash basin, grab bars, and unisex accessible toilet sizes are there. Last part, that is the information and the wayfinding system. So, here now we have different types of signage. Sometimes these are directional, sometimes these are information. So, that there are many. So, what we need to understand that what are the design parameters, like the viewing distance and height of the letter. If you have a huge public space and you have decided designed a signage system, what should be the minimum height of the letter? How you can increase the legibility? By your here maps, so that because these help to identify people, and these can be embossed so that people can touch and understand. You can have one map serving all two purposes. Display essential information, no cluttering. Proper signage. Tactile and multisensory information system. Use of raised letters, pictograms, braille. Clear repeated audio, perceptible information. I think these are all application of the universal design principles which we have studied. Placement of the signage, because your user is sitting and not standing. what should be the width of the or stroke width of the letter for clarity, what should be the choice of the font, what should be the spacing between the alphabets. Too little space sometimes makes the letter appear merged together, and if you have too more space it might appear disjointed. Upper and lower case many a times give a better readability or easy to understand. Making bold makes it more visible, but it should not appear something like that. It is a blob of ink. Be careful while choosing the font, or the too much of ornamentation always might not be good. Whether you go for a serif font or a sans serif font. Now serif is where you have this, sans serif is where you have straight like Arial, Helvetica, and serif is when you have the Times New Roman, Garamond. Now here what happens, say I and you say here you have IMG, if you have I and N side by side, they may appear as M from a distance, particularly if you have blurred vision. So that might be a problem. Go for a proper contrast, high visibility, and not something which low visibility and which vibrates. Now this is the additional part which I wanted to talk, that is the building management and access handbook. Because many a times what we see that it is that buildings provide accessible features, but when they start operating, these features are not maintained properly. As a result, building management or how to keep the accessible features working is important. People should be told also about the accessible features. So what is used to achieve universal design is an access handbook, which should record and explain the features of a building that are key to universal design. What is the emergency evacuation procedure? What are the routes? Which is the particular of these routes, which one is which of these are accessible to all, which is the universally accessible route, that should be there. The staff and volunteers should have regular trainings, that is important. So this is a very important part, because during any kind of man-made or natural disaster, the people who are vulnerable become more vulnerable. So exit stair signage, visual alarm. So whenever there is people are going there, it is important, going out or being evacuated, it is important that you also think about the people with sensory disability. If someone is blind, there should be proper audio instruction. If someone cannot hear the siren, then there should be proper a light instruction that there is an emergency, should go and which side should go. So the evacuation is very important, and these are included in our recent version of harmonized guideline, for which it is very special. So we'll go for some good practices in the next lecture in this line. So as of now, thank you.